Today we want to beat every single Pokemon champion, and there is a lot of them, as Gold from the manga. Gold is a unique trainer with some really unique Pokemon too. If he does manage to beat them all, there's 3 powerful trainers he must face to claim victory. With some added rules for more difficulty, could Gold beat every Pokemon champion? First up is Pokemon Fire Red, and we have the champion for this game, Blue. We've got a pretty unique team with some solid Pokemon to answer his team. I'm excited to use these. Blue's lead is his Pidgeot, and we lead off with our lead for this run, Expo. I set up a Sunny Day turn 1, and we take a pretty weak Aerial Ace in return. With fire moves now boosted, we fire off a fiery flamethrower, and we still don't do enough damage to take down Pidgeot, but we do snag a burn, reducing his attack as an Aerial Ace does even less. Then Pidgeot succumbs to his burn. Second, Blue sends out Rhydon. I have Earthquake, but our attack is mediocre, and we don't even do half, before Rhydon's Earthquake destroys us, taking down Expo. I decide to send in Sudowoodo next and hit our own Earthquake to take out Rhydon. Third, Blue chooses Executor. We can't really hurt the 3-headed eggplant, but we do dodge a Sleep Powder before hitting a critical hit Rock Tomb and lowering his speed. Our next Rock Tomb puts him in the red, and Sudowoodo gets put to sleep. Blue 4 restores, and I just burn sleep turns. But Executor is just way too powerful, and he takes down Sudowoodo with Giga Drains. I then send in Togebo to hit a flamethrower that does fantastic damage as we dodge an Egg Bomb. Blue 4 restores, but our next flamethrower critical hits, taking him out. Blue's next choice is Alakazam, who sets up a Reflect, boosting the team's defense. Togebo throws rocks at him, fishing for a stat boost, but we do very little damage. We then take a Sidekick to close to half before our next bunch of rocks gives us a stat boost to every single stat. I then hit a Water Pulse, confusing Alakazam too as he hits himself in confusion. Blue 4 restores again, and we just keep on Water Pulsing. It takes a few more attacks as Alakazam is spamming Recover too, but eventually we get to take him down. Fifth is Arcanine. We miss an Ancient Power, but we take a Flamethrower very well thanks to our stat boost. We then throw rocks that does nothing to him before a Flamethrower puts us on a sliver of HP. Then Arcanine goes for a priority Extreme Speed to take down Togebo. We now swap into Polibo, and Arcanine Extreme Speeds again for good damage before a Surf from our Politoed takes him down. This leaves his last Pokemon and his ace, Blastoise. A Water v Water standoff. I spam Psychic as he heals us with Hydro Pumps thanks to our ability Water Absorb. We Psychic again, and Blastoise sets up the Rain. We then get to hit some Rain boosted Surfs as Blue 4 restores, but Blastoise is just doing so little damage to us. We eventually take him down, beating our first champion of the run, and it's time to head to Johto. Lance is a champion of Johto, and the next we face. Honestly, we've got 2 water types with ice coverage. It could be an easy fight, but I'm never sure with Lance's powerful team. Lance leads off with Gyarados as we lead off with Expo. I sell the Sun as Gyarados hits a now weakened Waterfall, and we tank it alright. We then Thunder Punch for half as he keeps attacking us with Waterfalls. A final Thunder Punch and Expo beats a water type. But then is Aerodactyl. We hit a Sun boosted Flamethrower for huge damage before falling to a crunch. We send out Togebo next, and Aerodactyl's Rock Slide really hurts us as we throw rocks at him to take him down, but we don't get a stat boost. Third, he sends out one of 3 Dragonite, so our Ancient Power does half to him as he takes us out with a Dragon Rush. We then send out Sudowoodo, who gets hit for a Dragon Rush, then flinched. We then take another Dragon Rush, miss our Rock Tomb, then Sudowoodo dies to Dragonite. We send out Sunbow next, and I can see how frail our team is. We take a Dragon Rush to 27 HP before a Hidden Power Ice takes down Dragonite. Then Charizard immediately comes out and takes us out with a Dragon Claw, but I've saved the best Pokemon for last. I go into Polibo and set up the Rain. Then I realise I don't have Surf as we spam Psychics and we take big damage from Charizard. We eventually take him down, but Polibo is now weakened, and his second Dragonite finishes us off with a Dragon Rush. It's all down to Mantaro next, but we have Ice Beam, and we just one hit knock out the Dragonite, leaving his ace left. We put him in the red, he eats his berry healing him before an Outrage puts us on only 3 HP. We are faster though, so we can finish off Dragonite with an Ice Beam, beating Lance, but that was a super close one. It's time for Hoenn, where 2 champions await us. In Pokemon Ruby, Steven is a champion. He has mainly Rock and Steel types, and I think we've got a good shot with our move coverage to take him down. Steven's lead is Skarmory, and we lead off with Expo. It's a great matchup for us for once, and we set up the Sun with Sunny Day, and we take a weak Aerial Ace. Then we just melt this Lifesteal Bird immediately with a flamethrower the turn after. Second, Steven sends out Metagross. I don't know what he's thinking as we've powered up and another flamethrower takes down his ace. Third, Steven sends out Claydol. I hit a flamethrower for fantastic damage as he sets up a light screen raising the team's special defense, but he's now too low and Expo just takes down Claydol. Fourth is Aggron. I hit an Earthquake with Expo for great damage before Aggron's Earthquake brings us really low. Steven full restores, but our next Earthquake brings him all the way back down. Expo then gets to take down Aggron with an Earthquake and is sweeping Steven so far. But then his Cradily. It lives a flamethrower in the red and takes us down with an ancient power. We send out Polibo on the full restore and we set up a Rain Dance. We then fire off a boosted Surf, putting him in the red before we get confused with Confuse Ray. Steven heals again and we hit ourselves in confusion. But the next turn we break through and hit a Surf shortly after. That critical hits and takes him down. His last Pokemon is our Moldo, the ancient bug, but it's weak to water. We snap out of confusion and take it down with just one rain boosted Surf, beating Steven, but there's still one more champion in Hoenn to face before Gold can claim the title. Our second champion for Generation 3 is Wallace. He's a water type specialist and our lead is not the best. I think we can win, but I'm not sure how hard it's going to be. Alright, we did fail our first attempt at the last hurdle, Gyarados. He just spams Hyper Beam and just demolishes my team. He sets up Dragon Dances, giving him the speed boost, and we just can't take him down. I did something silly by going for a Confuse Ray with Mantaro on the turn he's recharging. He doesn't hit himself and takes down our last Pokemon. Let's try it again. Attempt 2, Wallace leads with a massive Wailord, and Expo is at a disadvantage here. I set up a Sunny Day to reduce the power of water type moves, and we get hit by a massive water spout, but we hang on. The next turn, we Thunder Punch the whale with electrifying power and bring him low as his water spout now doesn't do too much as it's based off your HP. The next turn we can take down the whale with a Thunder Punch. Out comes Ludicolo. Being part grass type and having the sun plus blaze boosted means he can't live a critical hit flamethrower, such an overkill. Third is Tentacruel, who survives a Thunder Punch when I should have flamethrowered and takes us out of an Ice Beam. We send out Polibo next and revenge kill Tentacruel with a Psychic attack. Fourth, he sends out Milotic, who tanks a Psychic and poisons us. And honestly, I'll speed this bit up. It's just turns of us exchanging attacks and Milotic recover stalling until eventually we fall to toxic damage. We then send out Sunbow and Milotic Ice Beams us for over half as our Giga Drain does a great amount back to Milotic, critical hitting again and healing us close to full. Whiscash is 4 times weak to grass, so he falls to 1 move and we're back at Gyarados. We can't really hurt it and it Dragon Dances again as our Giga Drain does about a quarter. He then Hyper Beams Sunbow and he falls. We now send out Sudowoodo, who hits a Rock Tomb on Gyarados' recharge, meaning we beat Wallace attempt 2. It's time to take on Sinnoh. Cynthia is a champion of the Sinnoh region. Her team is a powerful one, but I do see answers to her team and ours. I think she's going to inflict big damage to us though. Cynthia's lead is Spiritomb and Expo does his usual Sunny Day setup. We take a Dark Pulse as well for good damage. The next turn our boosted flamethrower puts her in the red as a Dark Pulse brings us to below half. Cynthia full restores, but it's in vain as our flamethrower rolls better and takes down Spiritomb. Second is Milotic and I just flamethrower for close to half before we succumb to a Surf. This gives us a swap to Sunbow, who puts Milotic in the red from a Giga Drain as she sets up an Aqua Ring. Milotic then Ice Beams us for fantastic damage as I set up a Sunny Day again. Now we outspeed and can take her down with a Giga Drain. But then comes Togekiss, who we hit with a Hidden Power Ice and we die to a single Air Slash. We send out Sudowoodo, who tanks an Aura Sphere, misses a Rock Tomb again, then dies to a Sidekick. Poor Sudowoodo, no luck for him so far. We send out our own Togebo and throw rocks at him to bring him low before we take a weak Air Slash. Cynthia heals Togekiss up, but we just keep throwing out ancient powers. Eventually, we take Togekiss down, but we didn't get any stat boosts and we're under half. She brings out a Race Garchomp next, and we hit a pathetic Water Pulse before Dragon Rush nearly kills us. A bit more chip damage, then Togebo falls to Garchomp, if only we had the Fairy typing. We send out Mantaro next, who outspeeds Garchomp and hits a 4-time super effective Ice Beam to finish off a race Pokemon. Lucario comes out, and our Surf does massive damage, but Mantaro survives the Sidekick, meaning we can take Lucario out the next turn, leaving only a Roserade left. We Ice Beam, putting it under half before finally falling to a Sludge Bomb. With one Pokemon left now on each side, we do have the upper hand. We've done enough damage to Roserade for us to be able to take it down with a Sidekick, giving us a victory over Cynthia, but not a clean one. It's time for Univers, where 2 more champions await us. First up in Gen 5 is Alder, and he's got some solid Pokemon Pokemon. Definitely a bug theme going on here, so hopefully Expo can put in some solid work. But we also have Abo on the team now and Ambipom. I wanted to use him earlier, but I did forget. Aldi's lead of Vesselgo gives me an opportunity to set up a Sunny Day as he goes for a Focus Blast, and my god, Typhlosion looks awful this generation, although I'm happy the Flame stayed. We take down Vesselgo with one Flamethrower shortly after. Then is Bufalon. Our Sun boosted Flamethrower does fantastic damage, but an Earthquake just immediately ends Expo. I now send in Abo, who hits a Fire Punch to take down the Buffalo. Third is Druddigon. We've got good coverage, so an Ice Punch does fantastic damage as we tank a Night Slash. This means the next turn we can deal with his Dragon. Fourth is a Scavalier. It's 4 times weak to fire, so Abo brings him right to a Sliver and gets the burn, reducing the damage we now take from an Iron Head. Surviving it, and Escavalier succumbs to his burn. Fifth is Volcarona. I stay in and go for a double hit. Our first hit does a good amount, and the second hit critical hits, and Abo is making a massive statement here and takes down Volcarona too. Lastly is Vanillix. Abo deals solid damage with a Fire Punch before finally falling to a Blizzard. We send out Sudabo next to finally try and get some action for him. Vanillix blizzards and then freezes Sudabo, so once again he does nothing and gets hacked and dies. Poor guy. We send out Togebo, who throws rocks at the Ice Cream to beat Alder and move on to our second Unova champion. Iris is the second champion and the majority of her Pokemon are dragons. We have solid coverage with Polibo and Abo. Let's see how we fare against her team. Iris's lead is Hydreigon and Expo is at a disadvantage here. I Sunny Day as usual to reduce the incoming damage from a Surf attack. The next turn I Flamethrower, but we still don't do much as a Dragon Pulse really hurts us. Our next one puts Hydreigon in the red before Expo falls to another attack. We then send out Polibo to go for an Ice Beam on the full restore from Iris, but it's not enough and we take a Dragon Pulse to nearly half before we get to take it out. Then comes Lapras. I Psychic for chip damage and we survive a Thunderbolt. We bring Lapras to exactly half before Polibo falls too. Now we send out Sunbo to take down Lapras with a Giga Drain, but then comes Druddigon, who we barely hurt and smashes us with a Flamethrower. We Giga Drain again, but Sunbo is way too frail and falls to Druddigon's power. Abo, however, can come out now and immediately finish it off with an Ice Punch. Then Iris sends out Aggron. We can't really hurt it, so I go for Fire Punch trying to burn, but he just starts automizing, raising his speed stat. I then double hit, but it still does nothing. Aggron is now faster and a double edge brings us low before we finally snag a burn with a Fire Punch. A double edge still hurts us, but between burn damage and Fire Punches, we eventually take it down, but we're weakened too. Iris's Ace Haxorus joins the fight now, and Abo gets off a good Ice Punch before eventually falling. Sudabo now gets another chance to shine again because we survive an Earthquake, but do absolutely nothing in return with ours. Then we fall to an Earthquake, leaving us only with Togebo left. We are faster and an Air Slash finishes him off, leaving us versus an Archeops. We throw rocks at him, nearly getting the knockout before taking a defeatist Acrobatics. The next turn we get to finish off Iris with an Ancient Power in what was yet another close battle. Onto the 3DS games and Kalos is champion now. Diantha is the champion of Kalos, and who we take on next. Her team's pretty strong and she's got a Mega Gardevoir. However, her weakness to ice is a big thing here. Holucha is her lead, and turn 1 we actually outspeed the Luchador bird and deal serious damage with a Thunder Punch. But Holucha doesn't attack, he just raises his attack with Swords Dance. So the following turn, Expo gets a knockout. Second, she sends out Tyrantrum. We hit an Earthquake for quite good damage as Tyrantrum misses a Head Smash. So the next turn we Earthquake again to bring him to the red as he connects a Head Smash to instantly take down Expo, but the T-Rex makes himself extinct again from recoil damage. Third is Aurorus, the ice dinosaur, and we send out Sudabo. He finally gets to deal out some serious damage now by low kicking the very heavy dinosaur to take it down in one move. Then is Gudra, a more bulky dragon. We Earthquake and we do close to half as we dodge a Focus Blast. We Earthquake again, bringing Gudra to the red as we dodge yet another Focus Blast. Diantha full restores now, and I'll speed this bit up a little bit as we just exchange moves. Diantha just keeps full restoring. Eventually, after a mighty standoff, Sudabo falls with Gudra around half. We now send out Polibo. Our Politoed hits an Ice Beam, but we just don't do enough damage, and it survives and hits a Dragon Pulse. But eventually, we take down this bulky dragon. Then is Galgeist. We hit another freezing Ice Beam to bring Galgeist low before it hits a critical hit Seed Bomb to take down Polibo. We send out Togebo to Ancient Power, but Diantha heals again. We do good damage, but we don't get a stat boost. A final Air Slash finishes off Galgeist, giving us a final battle with Gardevoir. Diantha Mega Evolves her into Mega Gardevoir, and and we hit an air slash for great damage and we get the flinch. We air slash once more, bringing a low before a thunderbolt brings us to below half and paralyzes us. Diantha uses yet another full restore, healing Gardevoir, and we get para-haxed. A final thunderbolt from Gardevoir and it takes down Togabo. So we go into Sunbow, and Moonblast does massive damage and our Giga Drain does very little compared. The next Moonblast just instantly takes us out thanks to a critical hit, and we only have Abo left. We are faster though, and a double hit ends Gardevoir, beating Diantha in yet another close battle, down to our last Pokemon these last few fights. But it's time to set sail to Alola. Hao is the person we fight to become champion here, and he's always one of the most trickiest. His team really does pack a punch. Incineroar is a massive threat and its Z move, but so is Tauros. Well, our first battle went awful. We could barely take down half of his team. Incineroar can just clean up with his Z move too. Let's try it again. Alright, so attempt 2. Hao's lead is an Alolan Raichu, and even though we have Earthquake, he's faster and Thunderbolt does over half. Our Earthquake brings him super low though, so that's a good thing. Hao decides to full restore, which I'm completely fine with as we bring him down straight away with an Earthquake. Then Raichu Thunderbolts us, but Expo toughs it out on 2 HP to take down Hao's first Pokemon with a Flamethrower. Second though is Tauros, and it's just too fast and too powerful. It outspeeds us and just finishes us off with an Earthquake. I go into Sunbow now, who gets instantly nearly killed by a Double Edge as I set up a Sunny Day. But Sunbow shows the power the next turn by hitting a Solar Beam and dealing with this very strong Pokemon. Hao now sends out Incineroar and we hit a pretty decent Solar Beam, and I'm hoping it'll just Z move, but it doesn't, and we've powered that up thanks to Sunny Day. I go into Sudabo, who's actually faster. We hit an Earthquake bringing him low, then we take an Earthquake back putting us low, but we tank it. A final Earthquake from Sudabo and we deal with Incineroar without taking any damage from a Z move for once. Then out comes Leafeon, who quickly ends Sudabo with a Leaf Blade attack. Now we swap into Togabo, who can deal with a Leafeon pretty well. Leafeon just charms us, lowering our attack, but Air Slash is special and it only takes 1 to take it down, bringing out Crabominable next the Ice Crab. Is part fighting type, giving Togabo the advantage with Air Slash to easily taking it down, leaving Hao's last Pokemon Noivern. It hits an Air Slash for fantastic damage because it critical hits as we throw rocks at the Flying Dragon. We tank 1 more Air Slash before we connect our Ancient Power, defeating Noivern and beating Hao. With the 3DS games done, it's time to head to the Switch games. So, Trace Gold didn't actually have any Gen 1 Pokemon. We could unevolve Poliwhirl, but it's better to just use these Pokemon, his childhood Pokemon that live with him. The battle starts off by Trace Mega Evolving his Pidgeot into Mega Pidgeot as we lead off with Sandshrew. We hit a Rock Slide for fantastic damage and we snag a flinch. We've got a lot of flinches this run. A final Rock Slide and our little Sandshrew takes down a Mega Pokemon. Second Trace sends out Vileplume. We hit an Earthquake for solid damage, over half as he sets up a Solar Beam, but with no Sun it doesn't matter. We have a free turn to pick up yet another KO with Sandshrew without taking any damage. Third he sends out Slowbro though. We really don't have a way to hurt it, so I just Earthquake, again doing an okay amount of damage before a Surf brings us to below half. 1 more Earthquake and we put Slowbro in the red before a Surf takes down our Sandshrew. Now I go into Execute. Trace full restores up Slowbro and our Mega Drain brings him instantly to the red. Then Trace doubles on us into Rapidash and our Mega Drain still does a solid amount to him thanks to good special AVs. Rapidash outspeeds us and goes for a Flare Blitz, doing around 30% to us and burning us, as our Psychic just absolutely destroys the Fire Horse. Trace now sends out Marowak. We Mega Drain to bring him to 1 HP as he survives and hits a Fire Punch, not doing hardly anything to our tanky eggs. A final Mega Drain and we take down Marowak. This then brings out Jolteon and it's a pretty long fight of Mega Drains, Pin Missiles and a lot of full restores. But with our HP recovery from Mega Drain and having really good defensive AVs, we eventually managed to take down Jolteon while still being relatively healthy, leaving only the weakened Slowbro left. Trace full restores again. He must have bought out the Pokemart before this fight, but it's in vain as our Mega Drain just does way too much damage and we take him down beating Trace. It's time for Sword and Shield and the Gala champion. The champion for Sword and Shield is Leon. His team is really strong with a Gigantamax Charizard. We've had to make some substitutes here as Dexit happened, so I've substituted in a Kingdra and a Raikou he had, only temporary. Leon's lead is his Aegislash, and Expo not being in these games makes me sad, but we lead with Sudabo. It's a good matchup for us as our Earthquake is doing fantastic damage to him. Aegislash however hits a super effective Flash Cannon to bring Sudowoodo to his sturdy. The next turn, Sudowoodo can pick up the knockout with a final Earthquake, putting in some solid work, but Leon sends out Haxorus to instantly take us down with an Iron Tail. I send out Mantaro, who's back on the team, and we are faster, and an Ice Beam brings him super low. But he survives it and hits an Outrage doing big damage, but Mantaro survives it too, which means the next turn it can take down the dragon. Leon's third Pokemon is another dragon. Dragapult is faster than us, and a 4-time super effective Thunderbolt instantly knocks us out. I decide to go into Polibo now. I know it has Thunderbolt, but Politoed is kind of bulky. Dragapult hits the Thunderbolt, but we eat it nicely and reply with an Ice Beam, putting it low. Leon then uses a full restore, but we bring it straight back down. We then take one more Thunderbolt, putting us in the red before taking down Dragapult with an Ice Beam. Leon's next choice is Mr. Rhyme, the dancing Mr. Mime. We are actually faster than it, and a Surf does fantastic damage before Polibo falls to a Freeze Dry attack. I send out Raikou for some reason, and I go for an Aura Sphere, even though it's part Psychic type and we don't do too much to it, as we then take a Psychic for half in return. The next turn I Thunderbolt to pick up the knockout on Mr. Rhyme, leaving Leon with 2 Pokemon left, both weak to Electric. First is Inteleon, his water starter. It's now time for our Raikou to shine, and we hit a single Thunderbolt attack to take it down. This just leaves a Charizard left. Leon Gigantamaxes as we hit a Thunderbolt, bringing him to below half before we take a Max Overgrowth, putting us on 43 HP, and he sets up the grassy terrain, healing us a little bit too. The next turn we take down Gigantamax Charizard with a last Thunderbolt, defeating Leon and conquering Gala. On to Scarlet and Violet's champion in the Paldea region. The last champion is Geeta for Generation 9, and she's got some really unique Pokemon, but we have X-Bow back on the team who can do some serious damage. Her lead is a Sparfer, and we lead off with X-Bow. Turn 1 I hit a Flamethrower for massive damage as a Sparfer hits a Lumina Crash for a decent amount and lowers our special defense. The next turn, X-Bow can pick up the knockout on the Psychic Ostrich. Second out is Avalugg. While really bulky defensively, its special defense is poor, and X-Bow just melts the Ice Slab in one Flamethrower. Then Geeta decides to keep throwing by sending out King Gambit, a Steel type, but thanks to its ability Strength of the Fallen, it survives the Flamethrower barely and proceeds to knock out X-Bow with a Stone Edge. I now go into Sudowoodo to outspeed the slow Steel type and finish it off with an Earthquake, but Geeta in return sends out the loser. We are actually faster and we hit an Earthquake for decent damage, but a Liquidation really hurts us in return. We Earthquake again, bringing the Psychic Fish low before a Liquidation finishes off Sudowoodo with a critical hit. I decide to send out Abo for some more battling, and a Thunder Punch then takes down the Psychic Fish. Out next is Go-Go. Abo connects a Fire Punch, burning the Go and showing how great of a Pokemon he's been this run, as Go-Go bulks up, raising his attack and defense. That won't matter now though, as a final Fire Punch takes down the Goat, leaving only one Pokemon left. Her ace Glamora. Geeta terastallizes into a pure rock type as our Ice Punch does practically nothing and sets up Toxic Spikes before they hit an extremely powerful Sludge Wave. I decide to go for a double hit, which seems to be doing more damage than Ice Punch, before a Terra Blast from Glamora takes down Abo. I go into Sunbow hoping to be faster and finish it off with a Giga Drain, but we're slower. A Sludge Wave just obliterates our frail Sunflower. It's raining, so I go into Polibo to finish the fight with a rain boosted Surf, beating Glamora, defeating Geeta, and every single Pokemon champion as Gold. Or have we? Atop of the snowy Mount Silver is a legendary trainer Red and a champion trainer himself. Red leads off with his ace Pikachu and our lead is X-Bow. With permanent hail his team can be a problem, but X-Bow immediately deals with Pikachu with an Earthquake and his ace falls. Second out is Blastoise. I decide to Thunder Punch as he Focus Blast for not too much damage. I then Thunder Punch again, bringing him low as he misses the Focus Blast. Red full restores and we punch again. I then decide to keep attacking as we go super low from a Focus Blast. Now I decide to Sunny Day to finally remove the pesky hail that adds up before we fall to a Focus Blast. I go into Sunbow and Giga Drain then to finish off the Blastoise, but this just brings out Charizard. Our Giga Drain does nothing and a Sun boosted Flare Blitz just obliterates us and causes big recoil too. I swap into Sudowoodo and we take a Dragon Pulse to around half before we connect a 4 times effective Rock Tomb to take down Charizard. This brings out Lapras. We hit a Rock Tomb for nearly half and we dodge a Blizzard. Another Rock Tomb and we put Lapras in the red before we fall to a Brine attack. Red full restores Lapras as Togebo throws rocks at him. We throw rocks again before we take a huge Blizzard, a final Ancient Power, and Togebo takes down Lapras. Red chooses Snorlax next. I throw rocks at him before we die to a Blizzard. I now go into Polibo and set up the rain as we take a Crunch. We then hit a rain boosted Surf for big damage and we take him down the following turn, leaving only a Venusaur left. Our Psychic does over half as the Giga Drain brings us to the red. We hit another Psychic, putting him on a sliver of HP before Polibo falls to Venusaur, leaving us with a 1-on-1. But Abo is way too powerful, and after Red Full restores, our Ice Punch is doing massive damage. A final freezing fist, and we take down Venusaur, beating Red, and then he disappears. Team Plasma's N and a champion himself, who also has a legendary we need to win to continue. N leads with Reshiram and we lead with Expo. We hit a super effective Earthquake for not much, and we take a Fusion Flare in return for nothing. Our next Earthquake brings him low before a Hyper Beam leaves Expo on a sliver of HP. A final Earthquake attack, and Expo deals with a legendary Pokemon. Out second is Caracosta. We get instantly Aqua Jetted, and that's enough to finish us off. I now go into Sunbow, and I go for a Growth, raising our special attack as we take a Stone Edge to the yellow. Our Giga Drain then heals us for a lot as it brings him down to his Sturdy as we keep exchanging moves. N is healing Caracosta, but it's in vain as Sunbow takes him down. Third is Vanillux. We dodge a Blizzard and the Giga Drain does massive damage. We dodge a second Blizzard and Sunbow gets another knockout. Fourth is Klinklang, who hits a Flamethrower, meaning it's actually Zoroark, and Sunbow one-shots it with a Giga Drain. Then is actually Klinklang, who misses a Metal Sound as we're full HP from just spamming Giga Drains. Sunbow then gets hit with a Hyper Beam, but takes down Klinklang, practically sweeping N. But last is Archeops, who is faster and at Acrobatics destroys us. But this means we can go into Abo and hit a Thunder Punch to bring him low and paralyze him as we take a weak Stone Edge. Then we get to finish off Archeops with a Thunder Punch, beating N, leaving only one champion left. Kieran, the most latest champion to be introduced and one of the hardest. This has a focus on double battles. Honestly, this fight is just incredibly tough for my team. They're just too frail. My first attempt, we do make it to Hydrapple, but with only Polibo left, who picks off the low HP Pokemon with Surf, but he can't stand to two Pokemon constantly attacking him. Our next attempt goes even worse. We don't even make it to Hydrapple before losing all of our Pokemon. This is an extremely tough fight. It's not until 16 tries later I get this fight. We lead off Sunbow and Raikou as he leads off with Politoed and Dragonite with an emphasis on a rain setup. With Raikou, I Volt Switch on Politoed, getting rid of his Wacamberry early on, and I then go into Polibo. The reason being we have Water Absorb as our ability, as Politoed's Weather Ball then does nothing to us, but Dragonite's Hurricane just one-shots Sunbow is the issue. I now go back into Raikou and I Volt Switch onto Dragonite to break Multiscale, and I swap into Sudowoodo, as Politoed can then hit a Freezing Ice Beam on Dragonite to take it down. Politoed goes for a Weather Ball into Sudowoodo, but we survive it thanks to our ability Sturdy. Then Kieran sends out Incineroar. Incineroar fakes out Sudowoodo for the kill, and then we hit a Rain Boosted Surf with Politoed for big damage on both Pokemon on the field, activating Incineroar's Berry, and Politoed just Weather Balls, doing nothing to us. I now send out Raikou, and you can see the strategy I'm using here. I Volt Switch onto Politoed, and with this we pick up the knockout, and I go into Abo, as with Polibo we hit a Rain Boosted Surf, taking down Incineroar, but really hurting our Ambipom too. Kieran now sends out Porygon Z and Grimmsnarl. Grimmsnarl sets up a Reflect, and Abo's double hit doesn't do too much to Porygon Z as he goes for a Thunderbolt onto Polibo, but we tank it thanks to being pretty bulky, and we hit a Rain Boosted Surf, taking down Abo and Porygon Z, and doing big damage to Grimmsnarl too. I swap into Expo, and Kieran sends out his last Pokemon, Hydrapple. He terrestrializes it into a fighting type as Expo's Flamethrower and Polibo's Psychic bring it to under half, and Grimmsnarl's Spirit Break finishes off Polibo. Then Hydrapple Fickle Beams, bringing Expo low, leaving us now with a 2-on-2. So I send out Raikou. Grimmsnarl Sucker Punches Expo, leaving him low before Raikou's Thunderbolt brings Hydrapple very low, and Expo's Flamethrower takes out Grimmsnarl. Then Hydrapple hits an Earth Power, killing Expo, leaving us with just a Raikou. But we've weakened Hydrapple far enough to the point Raikou can finish off Hydrapple with a Thunderbolt, beating Kieran and beating every single Pokemon champion as Gold. So no death count again this run, rather attempts, and this was an easier run than Tobias. I got to use some unique Pokemon like Ambipom, Sunflora and Sudowoodo, but it was fun, and it was a much stronger team than I thought it would be. If you have any suggestions on who you would like to see next, let me know in the comments below. Like and subscribe if you're new, and check out my Black 2 Nuzlocke as then here. As always, I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you in the next one.